Hey, Crystal Maiden here for the next part of Twilight Princess. I think the Gil Boomerang is the only way you can reliably get that bug. Coming up is the most realistic sounding scream in Zelda history. Seriously, that is bone chilling. Like, normally the voice actors for the random voice clips in the 3D Zelda games don't really try all that hard, but this actress, you could really tell that she was really trying. Fighting these guys as human-like is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's also a satisfying challenge. Like, you really feel satisfied when you're able to do it, because you're not using Midna's charge attack at all. It's a lot more believable, like, the idea that you'll be able to do it, because your spin attack is a lot more range than the wolves. Yes, I know how to make bomb arrows. I guess this is supposed to be the point where you learn about them. I wonder if they intentionally made the idea of bomb arrows based off the glitch in Link's Awakening. Like, I'm pretty sure it would have been a pretty famous glitch. To the point where even Nintendo would find out about it. Maybe not. But like, it was basically a glitch that gave you a whole new item. Like, how could they not know about it? Here you have infinite bomb arrows. And there's actually a really cool glitch where you can make it so that this is permanent. Or at least until the next time a major event happens or you save and quit. Unfortunately, the glitch is extremely complicated and it can freeze your game if you don't do it right. I'll talk more about it later. Basically, what you have to do here is you have to get rid of all of the debris with the bomb arrows. The annoying thing about this is the current. The current is very uncooperative and it doesn't really like you moving exactly where you want to go. It's bad enough that when you're on the canoe, you have to move it forwards. Like you can only move it forwards and then a little bit to the left or right. The canoe doesn't exactly control well to begin with, and it's so slow that you're getting most of your speed from the current. But the current likes to send you in directions you don't want to go, and that can very easily send you towards walls. And when you're going through this place for the minigame, where you're breaking glass in order with the bomb arrows, like there's a minigame that you need to do in order to get a reward. And it's so easy to get sent into walls. I don't think it's a fair challenge at all. I think I'm going to show that off in the main playthrough. Like this. How are you supposed to tell in the first playthrough that you're coming right up to a wall? Like, the water is so high up that's blocking your view of that wall. Like, sometimes it tries to just lead you right into walls. I like the music that plays here though. And I really like the music that plays in Zora's Domain. It's actually the exact same music that plays in Zora's Domain Ocarina of Time. So again, another Ocarina of Time reference for you, I guess. I personally find Ocarina of Time to be overrated, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to hate on this game because of it. That doesn't mean I'm going to go, oh, it's too much like Ocarina of Time, therefore it's bad. Nah, if anything, this is just better. Although I say this fully knowing that part of this might be because I've never fully played Ocarina of Time, and maybe if I just sat down with a 100% guide and went through the trouble of tediously playing the entirety of the game with a guide on hand and nothing but, never doing anything on my own, so I wouldn't get lost in the game's lack of direction. That doesn't really sound all that fun. But like maybe if I beat Ocarina of Time, I'd like it better than this game. Since this game has a lot of unnecessary padding between the dungeons. Like after all the time you spent in the Twilight area, that's just going to make you want to go straight to the next dungeon even more. But no! You know what's after this? Escort Mission. I'm dead serious. Oh, I thought I showed me getting the minigame reward right away. I hate how you can't skip this cutscene. Like, every single time it happens again. It's like, I guess, is the point, like, I guess trying to make sure that he knows that you're using the attacks that he teaches you? But that doesn't really mean anything, you're only using them because he told you to. The vast majority of the hidden skills I don't ever use. What's the point when you can just, hopefully, spam the spin attack? Like, the back slice is good for a few armored enemies that throw a tantrum when you try to attack them normally. But the thing about the back slice is that it sends you so far to the left or right. Like, say you're trying to attack the Dark Knights with it. The Dark Knights are so heavily armored that chances are you're going to attack the armor anyways, even though you did a back slice. Because they're going to roll too far to left or right. And why the hell can't you ride your horse into Castletown? Answer me that. Why are there arbitrary invisible walls preventing you from riding your horse into Castletown? What is it, too unrealistic? First off, this is a Zelda game. And second, I'm pretty sure in medieval times, a lot of people rode horses around in towns like it was no big deal. Like, really? What? It's just so stupid. Like, you really start to feel the pain of how slower you move as a human when you get used to how fast the wolf moves, which isn't even that much. So, it's just kind of annoying that you immediately have to go... Yeah, I'm going to be cutting all these load times out. And since the music keeps on playing during the loading, yeah. Like, I like how they actually try to give different sections of the Castletown different feels by having different music, but still. So what's the deal with this girl? Like, is she actually the Princess of the Golden Bugs? Or is she delusional? Because if she's delusional, then why haven't these bugs hurt her? If these bugs had hurt her, then she would immediately know that she isn't the queen, wouldn't she? So they couldn't possibly... They must accept her as the queen, or they would be hurting her. Especially the ants. Like, she's definitely a rich person, so I can understand why she thinks she's a princess. She clearly doesn't have any parents around. So why is she allowed to... Like, I guess she's part of the nobility. Maybe she's related to royalty. And that's why she's allowed to not have parents looking after her. Like, obviously the civilians think she's a wacko. Which is pretty sad. Like, I feel sorry for her, I guess. But... Like, I guess she's supposed to be seen as cute, but she's not young enough for it to work. The thing is, she almost looks like a teenager. Like, I like the music that plays in her mansion. In fact, I actually like to turn up the volume just so I can hear it. Okay, I can kind of understand why the doctor leaves, because he's a human doctor. What's he supposed to do for Zora? Like, I guess the reason you're not allowed to ride your horse in Castletown is because you don't want to run people over with a horse. Because there's, like, all sorts of different random civilians running around. And, like, the problem is that Castletown doesn't actually feel alive and populated. Because you can't actually talk to any of the random people running around. Like, with Wimple Island, you could talk to everyone. But here, they just have a bunch of random people running around. But you can't talk to any of them, so while it feels all hustle and bustle, it's not really real. This is pretty funny. Like, this is one of the only moments of genuine levity that the plot has. It's generally a running gag in Zelda that the soldiers are actually very cowardly. But here there's an actual justification for it because maybe Xant's invasion killed off all of the soldiers who were brave. Because the brave soldiers were the ones actually trying to fight the Shadow Beasts, and naturally they were killed by them, and maybe even turned into them. So all that were left were the cowardly soldiers who sucked. With every other game, they don't really give an explanation for why soldiers, people who are trained in intensive military regiments to be soldiers, are cowardly. How would you even get the job? How would you even last through training if you're a coward? Like, it can't be all nepotism, because how would they keep their job? I feel the knee-jerk reaction to say that the Zora is just too depressing for a Zelda game, like being all sick and stuff. But I know that's just me feeling sad, feeling sorry for him, and like not wanting to feel that way. Like that's generally how, like that's part of why people complain about dark plots and dark elements, is that they are depressed by those elements, meaning those elements are accomplishing in the story what they're supposed to. And sometimes people lash out at that and don't want them to be in the story at all because of it. So this is the only exciting part of the worst part of the game. Like I said before, this is a stupid escort mission. This is the only example that I can really think of in Zelda of having an escort mission. So does Amnesia really work this way? Like where people hear things and that reminds them? Like I know that things are always familiar, because that works on the emotional memory part of your brain. Like things get saved in your amygdala as well as your hippocampus. So things can still provoke the same emotion in you, even if you don't remember them. But, like, does Amnesia really work this way? I did not mean to get out of that horse, damn it. But does Amnesia really work the way that's portrayed here, where she gets reminded of all of her past so easily just by seeing a few certain items? And I'm assuming that's the poisoned arrow she was hit with that took away her memory? Like, her losing her memory is very contrived. Like, it's never fully explained why she loses her memory. You just have to assume that the arrow she was hit with was poisoned, because that's why she fell and became unconscious. In fact, it actually makes more sense for Link to have gotten amnesia, because he was hit in the head. He was hit in the head. Ilya wasn't hit in the head, so why is she the one who got amnesia? Like, usually in stories, it's getting hit in the head that makes you lose your memories, but this case, it was a poison arrow, which I guess is more unique, but she should have died. Like, logically, how did she even survive? And getting knocked off the bridge here feels really arbitrary, because here's the thing. There's railings on the bridge. Like, shouldn't those walls have prevented Link from falling? What's the point of having railings on the bridge if you can be knocked off it anyways? And once again, you have the extremely stiff, like, controls from the last time you were in a situation like this. I'm trying to think of jousting. Jousting, that's what it's called. Like, at the very least, I can much more quickly get the horse to turn around. But yeah, it's like King Bubblen was genre savvy, and that's why he has 2 shields. But because he didn't anticipate you having the bow, he still fell. And this is actually the last you see of him for a really long time. How did he not drown? Like, he was sent into Lake Hylia. How did he not drown? Like, every other monster that falls into the water in this game dies immediately. It's like it feels increasingly arbitrary that King Bubblen keeps surviving his encounters with you. It's like the only reason he survives is because he's supposed to be a villain that you fight over and over again. And it's very arbitrary. Speaking of arbitrary, why the hell do you have to do this stupid escort mission? The biggest problem is that it's so easy, like, this is so cheap. How the hell are you expected to? You can't target these Bubblens. You can't target them because they're so high up. So, you can't hit them. You can't hit them before they hit the the thing and set it on fire because they're so high up. So it's like you try to be strategic by running ahead of this thing and preemptively shooting the archers, but the problem is that you have to manually aim at them, and that takes a really long time. So of course it's going to go ahead of you stupidly. Like, I remember the Escort Mission for Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. In that game, Peach would run ahead of you. Well, not even run, she would walk. And you would talk to her, and that would cause her to start, it would make her start going the other way. And she had a very scripted set path that she would always follow that she couldn't deviate from. With this, you're following a horse that is very stupid. This can happen and make it go off its course. Why the hell would the horse not keep following the road? I know that it was spooked by the explosion and it doesn't want to, like, maybe it thinks that there are landmines on the road. So it doesn't really trust the path, so it doesn't stay on it. But god damn it, this is exactly why I hate the Escort Mission so much. It's so tedious. Like, the horse just keeps running all over the place, and you have to spend 8 billion years guiding it back to where it needs to go. Why can't it just automatically why can't it just automatically stay on its path? Why can't you just talk to Telma and get her to, like, ride the horse the other way? Like with Peach in Superstar Saga. It's like, if you run ahead of it, then it's going to get set on fire by enemies that sneak up behind you. So you have to run ahead of it, but then enemies go behind it, and you can't attack the enemies because you're in front of the horse. It's impossible to avoid getting it set on fire. Like, I've never seen anyone avoid this thing being set on fire. At least it's a unique use of the Gale Boomerang, like putting out the fire. And like, it's really good that you can very quickly target it just by holding L. But it's like, I really hate this mission. This is one of the worst parts of the game. This part of the game actively discourages me from playing it again. Just hate this so much. Like, I hate how the birds actually drop explosions. I just hate these guys and how they arbitrarily, like, I guess they're summoned by King Bubblen. Like, we just saw King Bubblen, so maybe they followed him. But it's like, you never see these enemies anywhere else. Like, normally when you're going through this field, you don't see these guys running after you. This is basically Colin showing that he's a sympathetic character. Because he really wants to make sure that he's going to be okay. In fact, all of the kids do. Which is weird because the bullies who mistreated Colin all game, even they are fussing over this random kid that they've never seen before. Like this line. This is what I was referring to with Colin. I think I may have thought that, like, it was actually Renato saying that line first. Like, the thing is, the text boxes don't have the names of the person talking on them. But it's like, it must be really boring for them. Because, like, they're just sitting at his bedside. Like, I know they're really concerned about him, but, and like, I appreciate that trope in fiction. But sitting at a person's bedside must be really boring because it's not like you have any books to read. It's not like you have any TV to watch or anything. You're just sort of staring at the wall until they wake up. And that's not gonna be for a while. So is she just sitting there listening to him breathe and that's all she does? I mean, like, I feel sorry for him, but that must be really boring. I don't really like Telma as a character. Like, I'm not gonna call the game sexist because of it, because that's retarded. Like, that's just who she is. That's just who she is as a person. This at the very least adds a bit more depth to her character because she's a member of that group. So she's a member of basically what I like to call the freedom fighters. That's a really interesting concept that this game introduces. Link is not the only one who wants to save Hyrule. Of course, Link is the one doing all the work, which really sucks. See, this is why I don't really like Telma. She's a whore. Like, people like to call Rouge a whore, but she never flirts with anyone. Like, I guess she does in Sonic Battle, but that was a joke. Like, look at what Telma's doing here, and Renato doesn't like her back, which actually makes me feel sorry for her. Like, I don't know why, like, usually I want characters to, like, be happy together when like, they're being shipped together in a romantic sense in the fiction. So, like, when I was a kid, I always, for some reason, thought that Renato liked Telma, even though he literally says at one point, "It shames me to say this, but I cannot abide Telma's company." But yeah, I don't really think Telma is a good character. I really like the music that plays here. Like, this is very beautiful music. Like, this is one of the most memorable tracks in the game. In general, I don't think the soundtrack of this game is all that great. Kind of lackluster, to be honest. Like, it does the job well, it suits the setting. But it's not nearly as good as in Wind Waker. Like, you don't have Dragon Roost Island's theme. At the very least, the dungeon themes are better. Like, there's still ambience, but they're at least a bit more memorable. Like, I can actually remember what they sound like. But yeah, this is really good music. It accomplishes the sad atmosphere pretty well. Okay, why are Zora specifically having a graveyard here? Like, if we're supposed to believe that the graves are under the water, then why is this one grave above land? Like, this is an entire area in Kakaroo Village dedicated to just one grave. And a grave of a Zora, no less. I mean, why don't they bury him somewhere else? Like, this area is directly connected to Lake Hylia. You can tell because when you destroy the boulders here, you're able to go straight to Lake Hylia. Which makes me wonder how the hell the Zora were able to bury their dead. Because there was random inexplicable boulders that magically got created to prevent them from coming here. But yeah, it's just kind of confusing. Like, this is supposed to be the Zora graveyard. But first of all, the Kakariko village is not the Zora village. And second, why is there just one Zora grave here? Like, that makes no sense.